Hello. The power of the microphone. Now, the first thing I'd like to say is that, of course, we nicked this land and we need to pay our respects to the traditional owners of the land, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, on whose land we meet today, and we acknowledge and pay our respects to all their elders, past and present. It would be great if there was someone actually here to welcome us, but we, in the absence of that, we acknowledge their ownership. Okay, what we're going to do this evening is to celebrate Andrew's book of poems. Yeah. So the whole point of this evening and all of our attention must be focused on making Andrew happy. He's going to read some poems, and then Bronwyn has offered to sing some songs which are kind of related, and then we'll break, and then because it's been great we're going to do roughly the same again, and then at the end there will be books for sale and other celebratory things which I'll talk about then. Okay, thank you for coming, and if you're just a regular of the bar, thank you for staying. I only met Andrew a few years ago, and it took me a while to realise what a poet he was. And now that I've read his book, which includes poems written long before he met me and since he's met me, I was struck by something very strongly when I read them. I was brought up with poetry being something that was declaimed, you know, read to children, spoken out on stage, you know, at funerals, weddings. Andrew's poetry is different. You need an autumn afternoon, a floppy hat, a glass of wine or an apple, and resting under a tree, a straw to chew. They are reflective poems. They are poems that you can read and you can read again and see something different. They are quite, that's changed, as I say, it's changed the way I see poetry. And I'm not stuck with the autumn afternoon, a winter's night with a comfortable armchair and a good light, and really immerse yourselves in them. They're fantastic. And don't take my word for it. I think we're going to pass over to Andrew to read some poems, and you can make your own judgments. Thank you, Andrew.
Well, thank you all for coming, first of all. It's actually so nice to see everybody here. And as David quite rightly said, the purpose of tonight is for me to celebrate the fact that I've written a book of poetry, no more and no less than that. I think some people in this room will relate to this. When people find out for the first time that I've actually written some poetry, or God forbid written a poetry book, they kind of look at me and go, "Aren't you the numbers man?" And I think quite a few people in this room, I'm looking over there at you, Angel, would probably very much think of me as the numbers man. But I seem to have departed a little bit from that in the last few years, and I guess life changes, doesn't it? Life changes. And the first poem, which I actually chose a couple of days ago, before the storms all came, reflects a little bit on the fact that life does change, but it's called The Calling of the Wild. There are wild men knocking on the door of my soul, and craziness tugs at the roots of all I know. Though inner logic tells me to construct barricades, and voices of my peers advise me to resist. The old land, it is shifting, it is no longer sure, and the storm, it is calling, a feral, keen lament. Instinct knows it's time to run naked in the wind and dance with the spirits, the shadows, and the fire. The second poem kind of takes me a little bit back to my numbers roots, and the one following that does as well. In fact, probably a lot of people in this room don't actually know that I started off my adult years studying physics at university, and this next poem is called The Physics of Love. Is love a universal constant, hewn from fundamentals of the world we know? Or, like some supersymmetry, in theory so beautiful, but hidden in real life? A particle of God, so relatively rare, 10,000 scientists in Switzerland in decades find it's only probable. Yet relatively special, all curled up in space and time, and definitely not a force? Or black hole into which we're quickly sucked, a singularity where all that's real ends? These boffins get tied up in strings of maths. Perhaps true love is simply a dark matter. This one is called The Uncertainty Principle. Never be certain. Allow some room for error. There are things you will not ever know. For when the wild wind blows, rigid cages of certainty will break, while those with latitude will simply sway. Fear the absolute. Permit some devil in the detail. There are mysteries you can't control. For when tidal waves come, dry land will disappear beneath the swell, while seaweed will float to some new place. Celebrate the doubt. Don't be terrified by the unknown. There is intuition for such times. For when questions arise, your mind and soul can hear the infinite, while you allow the universe to speak. I think the next poem I'm reading for sentimental reasons is actually the first poem I wrote on this odyssey of starting to write poetry. So I wrote it, I think I wrote it pretty much on Australia Day in 2014. And it, like the next couple of poems I'm going to read, is a little bit of a reflection on the fact that I'm a migrant, and the fact that I have two countries that I love them both. And the poem is called 20 Years and More. I came at Christmas in summer to a land burned brown, to quiet city and sleepy heated pavement of closed suburban shops, a white stick insect on the world's backside, and settled for a little while, but then for longer still. I left behind the world of Thatcher and came to Hawke's heaven, the big banana, the vast banana republic on the other side of the world, ruled as a monarchy by the very same queen I left behind. Famous residents, some sheep, the Don, Jermaine, Kylie and Clive, ancient brown people in a brown land, and Skippy. Now more than 20 years have passed. Your sand is stuck between my toes. My hands are sticky with the resin of your trees. My lungs breathe the memory pleasure of your blue-tinged eucalypt alpine air. I see the low-lying snow gum and the massive mountain ash. Strong raindrops echo on an old tin roof, and there is a scent of a change from the hot tar road. Bleached visions are the order of my summers. Though often seared by fire, I know my luck to be here with you. The ancient and the new, turmoil and love, Australia. Was that applause? The next one's called Pea and Ham Soup, but it's still connected to the issue of migration. I forget how cold the Melbourne winters are. I should say this one's for you, David Clark. This one actually rhymes. Pea and Ham Soup. I forget how cold the Melbourne winters are, and nestled under woolly hat, I spark the gas, make blue flames flicker in the dark, entice my hands across the warmth of fire, and close around the saucepan while it eats. An ancient ritual, but comforting. My soup, it's pea and ham, now simmering. The thick mushed odour childhood memory greets of draughty church hall harvest suppers, thick white china bowls, cheap paper cloths, and dusty cupboards full of half-dead moths. Bare boards, old silvery urns, and wide-hipped mothers serving ladles of a lovely lumpy soup. Weak ceiling heaters leave the smell of gas, while men make speeches that seem somewhat crass to us young kids. Then also, through the loop of time, a bonfire flickers for Guy Fawkes. Banners explode and rockets shoot so high. Bright coloured lights and smoke fill half the sky. A rugged-up child with fizzing sparkler walks around the fire's perimeter. And there I am, in parka, mittens, scarf and hat, clutching my mug of soup and sensing that this pea and ham transports me anywhere. And the last one I'll read in this set is a short poem. It's called The Immigrant. The Immigrant. I am north, drawn south, pulled by invisible forces along planetary field lines, from the green mossy wetness of old home to the sun-faded eucalypt of new. Emigrant, immigrant, a life of two loves, kept poles apart along planetary field lines, pulled by invisible forces, drawn north, I am south.
Hard act to follow. I'm now going to introduce Bronwyn, who has agreed to sing a couple of songs. I'll tell you what I know about Bronwyn. Bronwyn is a folk singer from Glenlyon, not Glenrowan, Glenlyon. She has performed at various festivals around Australia, and I believe also helped organise some. So she can tell you more about herself in one stanza than I could standing here for 5 minutes talking, so I'll hand over to her.
Red is the rose that in yonder garden grows, and fair is the lily of the valley. Clear is the water that flows from the Boyne, but my love is fairer than any. 'Twas down by Killarney's green banks that I roamed. The moon and the stars, they were shining. The moon shone its rays on her locks of golden hair, and she swore she'd be my love forever. Red is the rose that in yonder garden grows, and fair is the lily of the valley. Clear is the water that flows from the Boyne, but my love is fairer than any. 'Tis not for the parting of my sister Kate, 'tis not for the grief of me mother. I notice the loss of my bonny Irish love, but my heart is aching forever. But red is the rose that in yonder garden grows, and fair is the lily of the valley. Clear is the water that flows to the Boyne, but my love is fairer than any. Yes, my love is fairer than any.
Thank you. So the next song that I'm going to sing is another Irish song, and unlike Andrew's decision or trip to move to Australia, this song is about someone who was sent here less willingly than what Andrew was. It's called The Fields of Athenry. By lonely prison wall, I heard a young girl calling, Michael, they are taking you away, for you stole Trevelyan's corn, so the young might see the morn. Now a prison ship lies waiting in the bay. Low lies the fields of Athenry, where once we watched the small free birds fly. Our love was on the wing, we had dreams and songs to sing. It's so lonely around the fields of Athenry.
My lonely prison wall, I heard a young man calling. Nothing matters, Mary, when you're free. Against the famine and the crown, I rebelled, they ran me down. Now you must raise our child with dignity. Low lies the fields of Athenry, where once we watched the small free birds fly. Our love was on the wing, we had dreams and songs to sing. It's so lonely around the fields of Athenry. My lonely harbour, she watched the last star falling as a prison ship sailed out against the sky, and she'll wait and hope and pray for her love dear Botany Bay. It's so lonely around the fields of Athenry. Yes, it's so lonely around those fields in Athenry.
He's actually bought a book and he's paying for it. I've sent him lots of emails.
Okay, I'm going to read another 4 or 5 poems now, but before I do need to acknowledge that poetry books don't just happen, and although my name is on the front, often they're the product of lots of interactions with people, lots of help from people, lots of assistance, lots of inspiration, and although it's invidious to pick out individual people and individual names, I am going to pick out a few people and mention them because they're people who've had a major influence on my writing or have encouraged me to write, and I just want to acknowledge those things here today. So I first actually want to mention somebody who's not here tonight, and that's Liz Welsh of Darebin Council, who is, I'm not actually sure what her title is. Catherine, do you know? Is she the arts coordinator or something like that? She produces this magazine. She's produced it for the last 5 years. Catherine's actually on the working group. And it's full of writing, not all poetry, it's full of writing. And 4 or 5 years ago I thought, oh look, I'll submit one of my poems to that magazine and see what happens, and it got in, and I thought, oh, maybe I can write some poetry. So I wrote a bit more, and I got some more in the following year. And so I really want to acknowledge the work that Liz has done in the Darebin Council to build a nucleus of writers and incubate writers in the local area. I also want to acknowledge my writing group, which are called Darebin Writing Date. Catherine up at the bar is actually the convener of Darebin Writing Date. So if anybody in Darebin wants to join a writing group, go and talk to Catherine. I'll talk personally here. The thing the writing group's done for me, far beyond criticism or commentary on poetry, is it's given me a community of writers and other people who write, and it's enabled me to sit with people who write, who go through some of the same difficulties I go through. So I want to thank you, Catherine, and I want to thank other people in the group. David's also in the group. I need to thank both Catherine and David, because they actually read this manuscript from front to back and checked it for me and noted errors and came back to me, and it wouldn't be the work it was today were it not for the fact that they went through it. So thank you, Catherine, and thank you, David. I really appreciate you doing that. David and Jill, his wife, or Jill and David, her husband, both of you gave me lots of practical advice about how to publish, how to produce a book, how to edit things, some of which I ignored completely, some of which I took on board, but I greatly appreciated it. You were wonderful. Margaret Batchelor, Di Woods, Jane Bryan, Sally Chambers, all looked through cover designs, and I won't tell the story now. Some of you have heard it about the cover design I started with and why it wasn't suitable. But without those people commenting and talking about my cover design, it wouldn't be what it is today. I want to thank David and Bronwyn for emceeing the night and singing, beautiful singing, Bronwyn, thank you. I want to thank the bar staff and Eamon, the manager, who really made this possible by saying, you know, you can come into the bar and you can use it. And originally, I thought this was going to be 10 people maybe in the back room. So it's become something much bigger than I thought it was going to be originally. And Eamon was very flexible in facilitating things happening. I need to thank my brother, actually, Stephen Brion, who's not here. He's in Abu Dhabi, but he's facilitated the fact that we're actually videoing it tonight. And the primary reason we're videoing is not to say, hey, I've got some poems and I can put them on the internet or something like that. It's actually so that my family, none of whom live in Australia, can actually get a little bit of the experience. And so, thank you, Stephen. I really appreciate you arranging the videoing. Thank you to everybody who's bought books, and I think most of the people in the bar this evening have already bought books. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It helps me break even. That's significant. There's a poet if you break even. Bloody hell, you're doing well. And look, and to everybody here tonight, thank you so much for coming. It's great for me to celebrate my book. If you enjoy it, that's great too, but I really appreciate you actually being here. So, back to poetry. The next two poems are ones I was a little bit reluctant to choose, not because they're not poems I like, but because they're both poems that are quite emotional for me. And I thought, can I read them out in front of people? But I'm going to have a go, and if my voice cracks a little bit, I will pause and recover myself. Actually, I should thank you, Margaret, because Margaret has heard me rehearse these through twice, and I really, really appreciate that, because it's made a difference to the way I'm reading these. All right, so this poem is called, and Dan will laugh, this poem is called The Introvert. I am the quiet one, shy as a child. Some say aloof as man, shadow flitting at the back of life, monochrome and cautious, most would think. But this is what it means to be inside an introvert. Life's colours run so bright, the season strong. Passion lies in gentle breezes, sun-dappled leaves, a bird in flight, a child smiles, touch of a stranger on the street, music soaring, minor keys, veranda on a summer day, high mountains in rare air, and silent snow on city streets at 4 a.m. These things, they are enough. They swell inside me, swirling huge and deep. The dance is locked within, pleasure burning in my chest, behind my eyes and in my heart. Beneath pale skin, kaleidoscopic colours roam. Beneath the deadpan speech, a choir sings. Thoughts seem quiet, while birthing tidal waves, moves minimal without, while passions surge within. Some days, the happiness inside, reflected from our extraordinary world, is more than I could ever wish. And occasionally, when on my own, emotions trapped inside leak out in salty joy of life, washing down my cheeks. And then I know my fortune is to feel this pleasure of the everyday so deep. This one's emotional for me for quite a different reason. This is about one of the things I really miss about England, and it's maybe not one of the things you'd expect. It's actually that in the middle of a really dark, cold English winter, you get the most spectacular, cold, blue sky days, and they're just magic when you get them. And that's what this poem's about. It's called A Winter's Tale. There is a deep blessing in knowing the magnificence of the sapphire day, the cut stone in the midst of a dark, cold climate winter. Day breaking sharply like the splintering of ice, rare sun blinding from a pure blue sky, the merest cloudy chalk dust scattered high along the horizon, a silent frost holding each blade of grass erect, a field of white daggers. Wintered, naked trees along the ice-rimed river, standing sentinel to this most glorious midwinter day. The heart lifts, knowing that from the fabric of the grey, cold winter doldrums, stretched across the dull frame of frozen months, appears a jewel. This sharp, sharp, blue, precious day. To walk crunchily in the park, be scarfed, be gloved, be coated on this most magical of days, the smoke of dragons leaking from my jowl-bound scarf. Light shimmering across the fields, the white silence of the blanketed land. Drops of water gliding transparent down fragile icicles, on roofs, on trees, on undersides of trailers. This is purity and joy, a thrilling wonderland tugging at my heartstrings, and the cold drawing salt water from my eyes, a stream of powerful midwinter happiness on this one perfect, shiny winter morn when I am the only soul on earth. Now, reading this next poem purely because it's one of my favourites, so I like it. It's slight change of pace. It's called Good Friday. It's about Good Friday in Australia. Quiet Easter Friday. Some say good. Full weight of working days dropped, freeze-framed 2 inches from the floor. Traffic sounds dissolved in still and secret solvent. Babble and stray commotion folded into the sweet treacle of the day. The morning hours like others, but held shushed behind a double glazed holiday, and the silence is loud and penetrates my ears like blankets flung from 6 stories to hard ground. The day slow-mos, sand spilling noiselessly from the hourglass, soft munching of hot cross buns in the middle of a windless day, and a frosted lazy sun painting blues amongst unmoving whirls of cloud. Oh, we should stop more often. Halt the crazy, flaying arms of time from beating out insistent tin can rhythms, and breathe softly centred in whatever stills our heart. The Balinese know the blessing of Niepi, the Jews' Shabbat. Quiet Easter Friday, some say good. Okay, I've got just one more short poem I'm going to read now, and then Bronwyn's going to sing again, and I will finish with a short poem after that as well. The poem I'm going to read now is short, it's a little bit sad, and it's a little bit ironic, and it's called Sex and the City. 4 million hearts slow drumming in the darkness of this town, tight tucked in beds of loneliness, dreading dreary dawn. 30,000 in this suburb, boxed in bedrooms, walls so thin that their desperate dreams evaporate. And 50 in this road hold out a hand, groping in grey twilight for connection or some passion or some genuine emotion. At the bottom of the street, a soul-spare light weeps weakly from a window without care. Inside, a man dreams dazedly, decidedly alone, of Sarah Jessica Parker's delicate collarbone.
So this next song I'm going to sing is by a gentleman by the name of Boo Hewardine, and it's about meeting up with your ex. So something that many poems I'm sure have been written about. And it's called Please Don't Ask Me to Dance. Please don't ask me to dance. Please don't ask me to dance. Skin remembers what the heart forgets. I might do something that I will regret. How can you smile at me now? After all the ugly words we used, don't you remember anything we said? Tonight I'm younger and it's going to my head. No, I don't want a second chance. Please don't ask me to dance. Please don't ask me to dance. Please don't ask me to dance. What do I care if you've got no one to hold? What does it matter if the night is getting old? Oh God, if I feel your hand, please don't ask me to dance. Oh God, if I feel your hand, please don't ask me to dance. So the next song song is one that I'm sure you will all know. It's one that I learnt in primary school, and it's in school that we learn about poetry, and it's in school very often that we learn about music and we learn some songs. Now, Andrew does tell me that there are some people here who like to sing, so there is a chorus. As I said, I think possibly many of you will know it. If you do, please feel free to sing along in the chorus. It's called Cockles and Mussels. In Dublin's fair city, where the girls are so pretty, I first set my eyes on sweet Molly Malone. As she wheeled to wheelbarrow through streets broad and narrow, crying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh, alive, alive, oh, alive, alive, oh, crying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh. Now she was a fishmonger, and sure it was no wonder, for so were her father and mother before. And they each wheeled the barrow through streets broad and narrow, crying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh, alive, alive, oh, alive, alive, oh, crying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh. This is the sad verse. Oh, she died of a fever, and no one could save her, and that was the end of sweet Molly Malone. Now her ghost wheels her barrow through the streets broad and narrow, crying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh. Bit spooky like a ghost. Alive, alive, oh, alive, alive, oh, crying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh. Now we'll speed it up. Alive, alive, oh, alive, alive, oh, crying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh. Once more. Alive, alive, oh, alive, alive, oh, crying cockles and mussels, alive, alive, oh. Thank you. Well done, everyone.
I'm just going to finish off tonight by reading one last poem. I think this poem's kind of multi-layered, but tonight perhaps it reflects on where poetry can take us, and also following Bronwyn's beautiful singing, it's actually called The Music Inside. So, the music inside. There's a single cello playing in the dark streets of my mind, and its melody is haunting as it courses through my soul. The black shadow of a stranger pulls the bow across the strings. Through the shroud of night swells music, a strong resonance lament. I can feel the deep vibrations in far reaches of my heart, and places long unlit within blaze passionate with sound. Thank you all very much.
Don't stop clapping for me. Now, there's a bit of a surprise event which wasn't on the program, and over to you to deliver.
Andrew doesn't know about this. Stephen, Andrew's brother, who lives almost in the other country that Andrew loves, as does all his family. None of them could be here today, but they would have wanted to be. And Stephen's asked me to read something out for you. So here we are. These are all his words, they're not my words. Andrew, congratulations on publishing your first book. You have always been my inspiration, and your first book, Soul Moves, is an amazing achievement that further inspires me to try new things develop new interests, and discover different sides to myself. Like many others, I've been following your poems on Facebook, and I'm thrilled you found the energy and resources to create a compilation of some of your poetic work. I am so looking forward to receiving a copy of your book and to be able to share some further copies with my friends. I hope your work will also be enjoyed in the Middle East, and that there is no political and or religious content that will trigger a visit to the local jail. Anyway, you have already inspired me to write a short poem, a limerick. Here you go, hang on. There was a poetic debut at Buck Mulligan's on a Tuesday without too many hooligans. Reading from Soul Moves plus great Irish grooves. What a start to Andrew's book selling shenanigans. So this is still Stephen. I guess we will all have to start somewhere. Let's hope your book will help me develop somewhat more creatively. Ideally wish I could have travelled to be with you and your friends tonight. Have a fun evening, and I'll try to get there for the launch of your second book. Yay! Cheers, Andrew, and congratulations once again.
And this same brother has offered to shout us all around of wine, which will be served at the bar. And that's, well, while you're thinking about that, there will be books for sale, and the cake which you've already eaten, there might be some left. Let's see what else I have on my list here. Yeah, please buy a book. Remember, Christmas is close by, so when we say buy a book, even if you bought one already, buy another one. And if you're going to buy, buy a couple. I can't promise that Andrew will come and read to your friends. And, okay, just remains to thank the staff, to thank everyone for coming, and to announce that a significant number of us will be going to have dinner at Introvert. Is that correct? So those who want to join Andrew, you're going to again? Yeah. Those who want to join Andrew for dinner at the Introvert, just make sure you don't lose sight of him. Okay, and I guess just another thank you to everyone.